You wake up to breaking news that feels like a page torn out of history. Negotiations between Washington and Moscow have just collapsed. The cameras flash, microphones click, and the world's two most powerful nations walk away from the table. No smiles, no handshakes, only the cold silence of distrust. It's official, diplomatic ties between the United States and Russia have frozen. You can sense it immediately. Something fundamental in the world order has shifted, and this time, it doesn't feel like a temporary rift. It feels like the beginning of something much darker. Across the globe, markets tremble. Energy prices spike overnight, and whispers spread through the halls of power. Are we going back to the Cold War? It starts small, a few diplomatic expulsions, some frozen bank accounts, military posturing along the borders of Eastern Europe. But within weeks, the tone changes. Russia mobilizes troops near NATO's frontier, and the United States responds by moving carrier groups into the Baltic Sea. Every move feels like a mirror of the past, except now, the weapons are faster, the technology smarter, and the stakes far deadlier. You see news clips of leaders on both sides giving speeches filled with defiance. Old propaganda tools make a comeback, but this time, they're weaponized through social media. Deepfakes and misinformation flood the internet, spreading confusion among civilians who no longer know what to believe. You scroll through your phone and realize that every headline, every image, feels like part of a psychological battlefield. The digital Cold War has begun, and you are one of its foot soldiers, whether you know it or not. At first, you tell yourself it's just politics. These things blow over. But then the sanctions deepen. Western companies pull out of Russia entirely, and Russian exports vanish from global supply chains. Energy shortages ripple across Europe, and the price of basic necessities begins to climb. You can almost feel the tension in the air, cities dimming their lights, nations hoarding resources, alliances quietly redrawing their priorities. Ordinary people begin to notice the cost of geopolitical pride. Gas prices triple, food becomes scarce, and as winter approaches, the chill in the air feels like more than just weather. It feels like history repeating itself. As the crisis unfolds, the world splits once more into camps. NATO fortifies its defenses across Eastern Europe, deploying tens of thousands of troops and missile systems within range of Russian soil. Moscow responds with nuclear rhetoric, promising unprecedented consequences if provoked. You picture radar screens lighting up across command centers, each side watching, waiting, measuring every heartbeat of the other. The smallest miscalculation, a radar glitch, a pilot's mistake, a misunderstood signal, could ignite a chain reaction that ends the modern world in minutes. Meanwhile, cyber warfare becomes the new battlefield. You start hearing about mysterious blackouts, hacked satellites, and communication systems going offline. Banking systems face disruptions. Airports halt flights for technical reasons. Governments stay silent, but everyone knows what's happening. Invisible warfare has begun. Lines of code replace bullets. Firewalls replace front lines. And yet, the fear feels just as real. You realize that in this new Cold War, no one is safe. Not soldiers, not civilians, not even the algorithms that run our daily lives. Then comes the propaganda wave. Each nation begins rewriting the narrative. Russian state TV declares America the aggressor, while Western outlets paint Russia as an unhinged empire hungry for dominance. You can feel the return of fear, not the fear of bombs falling from the sky, but the deeper, colder fear of mistrust. Old alliances like NATO and the UN fracture under the pressure. New coalitions form in Asia, Africa, and South America. Nations tired of choosing sides, now deciding to forge their own paths in this multipolar world. The idea of a global community starts to fade into memory. Days turn to weeks, and the standoff only grows colder. The United States increases its defense budget. Russia tests new hypersonic missiles, broadcasting their launches like trophies on state television. You watch the footage and realize how surreal it feels, both sides flexing weapons that could erase millions in seconds, while diplomats talk about strategic stability that no longer exists. Somewhere deep underground, both nations reactivate bunkers and shelters last used in the 1980s. Civil defense drills make a comeback. Sirens echo in Eastern European cities. People begin to whisper the unthinkable. Is nuclear war possible again? As tension peaks, Smaller nations become the new flashpoints. A border clash in the Baltics. A cyber attack on a NATO ally. A Russian jet buzzes too close to an American drone. Each incident adds fuel to the fire. Every analyst on television says the same thing. One wrong move could end everything. You sit in front of your screen, unable to look away, wondering how civilization can be so advanced and yet so fragile. Then, one night, the world holds its breath. Satellite imagery shows Russia moving nuclear warheads closer to its western border. The U.S. raises its nuclear alert level to DEFCON 2, the highest since the Cuban Missile Crisis. You imagine the tension inside those command centers, fingers hovering over buttons that must never be pressed. Presidents, generals, advisors, all staring at screens, all praying that reason prevails over pride. The world teeters on the edge of Armageddon. And just when it feels like the inevitable will happen, something unexpected breaks the cycle. Massive protests erupt around the world. Millions march in Washington, Moscow, Berlin, and Tokyo, demanding peace. Soldiers, civilians, and scientists alike take to social media, refusing to participate in a war that no one can survive. The message spreads faster than propaganda ever could. If they destroy the world, there's nothing left to win. Slowly, the rhetoric softens. Back-channel talks resume. For the first time in weeks, silence in the skies feels like hope rather than fear. By the end of the month, the world remains tense but breathing. The leaders agree to a temporary de-escalation, but the scars are already there. Trust between East and West has evaporated, replaced by suspicion that could last generations. You realize that the Cold War never truly ended, it merely changed its form. It moved from missiles to markets, from tanks to technology, from fear of annihilation to fear of disinformation. As you look back on these events, one truth becomes painfully clear. Peace is not the natural state of the world. It is a fragile agreement that must be renewed every single day. And if humanity forgets that, history has a way of reminding us in the loudest possible way. If this scenario made you stop and think about how close we really are to the edge, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more what-if stories that explore how one decision can change the course of history.